Hello and welcome to the look ahead for Wednesday, the 28th of August, with me, Fiona Cincotta, Senior Market Analyst at City Index. So, overnight, we'll be looking for inflation figures from Australia. Then, in the US session, we'll have the oil inventory data from the EIA. Fed speakers, we've got Bostic and Governor Waller in focus. And then, as far as earnings are concerned, Nvidia and Salesforce will be the ones to be watching. Now, Nvidia, let's just kick off with Nvidia. Obviously, they are the stock, the AI chip maker, which has been very much responsible for a lot of the gains seen in the S&P and the Nasdaq 100. The chip maker is expected to report after the close tomorrow. And this is very much going to be a litmus test for that AI trade. And for the AI boom. So revenues are expected to rise, but the pace of growth is expected to have slowed considerably. So revenue is expected to come in at 28.7 billion, and that's up from 13.5 billion in the same period a year earlier. Profits are expected to be 15.1 billion in Q2. That's up from 6.2 billion in the same period a year earlier. Now, as well as those figures, attention is going to be very much on the Blackwell update. Obviously, there was a delay that spooked the markets, but production is very much expected to ramp up on H2. In H2. And so the market is going to be, or investors are going to be very much watching to make sure that is still the case. Obviously, AI chips are the main driver of revenue at Nvidia. So any changes to this could impact the value of the shares. As well as that, we'll be watching for obviously guidance for the current quarter that will have the ability to influence share price as well. So let's just have a look here. This is the chart we're watching for Nvidia. It has fallen away from that all-time high of just over 135 that was reached back in June. It's trading below that falling trend line. Just going to need to really see a push above that 130 level. You can see the price has been consolidating below there, just ahead of these earnings. So we're going to look for a move above that 130 level in order to bring the 135 all-time high at 136.30 back into play. On the downside, immediate support there, 50 SMA, got it at 120. Below that, you've got the 100 SMA, but really the main big support will be looking in there at around the $97-$100 the share level, which was the high that we saw back in March. Also, it was a level that was just sort of tested back at the beginning of August. So now, obviously, when we're talking about Nvidia, it's worth actually just keeping in mind what's going on with the Nasdaq 100. You'd be forgiven for thinking that I've just overlaid the chart here, but it's not. This is the Nasdaq, which has been very much tracking the changes in the Nvidia share price. Have been very responsible for the S&P 500 particularly as well. Now we can see this recovery from the low that we saw at the beginning of August, back above the 200 SMA, ran into resistance just below the 20,000 level, just been again hovering around that. About below that at the 19,500 as consolidating ahead of the earnings tomorrow after the close, also the US core PCE at the end of the week. Just sitting on top of the 50 SMA as we speak. So, buyers are going to be looking for a rise above that 20,000 if we get upbeat numbers. But as I said, they are after the close on Wednesday, so this could even be Thursday early that we're looking at these results actually playing out in the open on Thursday. So above there, then obviously we've got the all-time high there around the 20,750. On the downside, disappointing numbers. Watch out for this trend line support here, trend line that goes all the way back to November 2023. It's also the 100 SMA, and that's at around the 18,900 level, so just below the 19,000 level. And then below there, we've got this 18,500, which was also the high that we saw back in March. Just quickly now looking at the Aussie dollar, US dollars, we said we've got the inflation data for Australia due in. expected to cool to 3.4%, down from 3.8%. See, cooling inflation will give the RBA less reason to be hawkish. They have been one of the more hawkish central banks in recent times. And if we do start to see inflation cooling, then that will make them more likely to start cutting interest rates. Even so, we've seen these, obviously we've got the US dollar weakness has been playing into this rally that we've seen from that 2024 low, which came in here at 63.50. We've had around a 7% gain since that low, just in the space of 3 weeks, ran into resistance at 68, just correcting slightly. As far as buyers are going to send, if we get hotter than expected inflation, then we could see a rise above that level, and that would bring the 68.70, which was the high that we saw back in December, at the end of December last year. And if we do see cooler than expected inflation, then I'll be looking for a retest of the 67.10 level. So that's a level that we saw tested quite a lot here across the May highs. It provided resistance on numerous occasions back across that May to July period, end of June period. And then just finally, the other one that we were talking about, we've got the oil inventories coming through. Oil again has had a really interesting price action going on. It's recovered from those lows that we saw at the end of last week. In fact, sorry, the end of last week, a couple of weeks ago. Last Wednesday, basically we've seen this really strong recovery from that 72.50 level, and that's basically amid supply concerns, as we've seen sort of chances of the ceasefire in the Middle East seem to be deteriorating. We saw the broadening, or there were certainly concerns with the broadening out of the Middle East, the war between Israel and Gaza broadening out across the Middle East after there were shots fired or missiles fired between Israel and Hezbollah, Iran-backed group, over the weekend. Also, as far as supply concerns, we've got problems in Libya the problems in Libya where we've seen that, or we've heard that the production has been halted due to a disagreement or clashes between the ruling government and the central bank. This hasn't been substantiated, but it has raised concerns over oil supply. Oil's risen, it's testing the 200 SMA at the 77 level as we speak. Well, today even it did, but it just seems to have sort of fallen away from that. That was tested earlier today. We've seen the price fall away as those sort of concerns ease slightly, but they're going to be the levels to be watching out for. If we get a rise above that 7777, which is the 200 SMA, then watch out for the 8040 level. That was the August high that we've seen. Above there, you've got the falling trend line coming into place. On the downside, as far as support is concerned, 73, which is 74, 73 level. That was the low we saw in June, and then also the August low, which was the 71.50. That'll be the levels to watch out for. So I hope that you liked everything that you've seen, and if you have, then please do give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this.